Well, well, well. Oh, looky, you showed up. Welcome back to the We Are Rise show, the only place where common sense still gets airtime. Can you believe that? Your delicate sensibilities are going to die. Yes, welcome to the We Are Rise show on this great Friday. How's everybody doing out there? A lot of crazy stuff. I mean, you know, the departing OD&I, Miss Gabbard, basically dropping truth bombs, proving once again that tinfoil hat, truthers, conspiracy theorists, right all along, doesn't matter. Nothing ever matters. The question is, what does this lead to? Where does this go? Does this lead to arrest? I mean, do we cut off the black budget programs of the DOD? Because a lot of this money was siphoned off in that matter. Where do we go from here? I don't know. I really don't know. Fauci, I mean, how much is he involved with these labs? Think about all these labs that are out there. Hunter Biden had a lab, apparently. Are we going to get to the bottom of that and that information? And, you know, not all these labs are necessarily connected to just doing biological threat reduction programs or assessment or, dealing with these things in a way that works to find, I think, cures in some way, make sure there's vaccines, protections. I think there's something else that we're happening there, and we're not really seeing it. We're just seeing what she's putting out there. She's just covering the surface of this, and then we're going to explain that tonight. So tonight's show, 120 labs of taxpayer bullshit. Yep. Iran, say uncle or star, President Trump's got them on the ropes. They're about to capitulate. I told you this was done a while ago. All this other stuff was just basically what? You had two competing factions that were trying to seize power in one way, that were operating in this, while another group was working behind the scenes to, in some way, make a deal. And whoever makes the deal first and gets this done in some way, that's it. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So whoever else was shooting missiles off to all these other places, whether it's the IRGC or all these other intimate factions or other groups in between splinter factions that are working outside the collective norm that everybody's saying, and then pushing out all the agitprop and propaganda. See, President Trump, we're in Groundhog Day. We just rinse, repeat, cycle, and bomb, and all this other stuff. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's why I said, don't worry about it. It doesn't even matter. You shouldn't wipe the sweat off your brow. It doesn't even matter about what's taking place because it's already done. I don't really care. You see oil dropped to like 80. Gas is dropping. Everything's going to change very soon. If you thought this was going to continue on like a never war, well, then you bought into Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and all these other fucking people that just, they got no problem twisting the dagger in MAGA every day, all the time. I mean, they're paid shills. They're paid operatives out there of what? Basically getting you detached, decoupling you from this stuff. And the last part of tonight's show, which I think we're going to dive into because I want to spend some time with them, a prophetic lens looking into Disclosure Day, the movie, the Spielberg movie. Now, I haven't seen it. I'm probably not going to go see it. I'll wait till it comes. I don't go to the movies anymore. I mean, the last time I went to movies is actually before COVID, but I haven't been to the movies in so long. It's probably been, I could say almost a decade. It's probably been like 8 or 9 years. I haven't seen a movie in a movie theater in a very long. We just don't go to the movies anymore. I mean, what's the point? I mean, it's expensive. I mean, when I was living down south, you go to these places like $15, $16, $17, then you valet, and then you go get a drink. Next thing you know, you're spending $100. You can eat. It's like that dinner in the movie thing. That was good for a while, but I'm not into that. I like to separate all that stuff. But I remember old movie theaters back in the day where you go and have a beer or a glass of wine, and those old type of show house movie places that are very dungy and grungy and green. I love those movie places, and they don't have them anymore. And you watch and they only have movies there that are like, that are off the cuff. They weren't like really top rated movies, blockbusters or anything like that. Movies that, getting a lot of attention, I'm trying to think, what's that movie? Oh man, I'm having a brain fart. I can't think about it. There's a lot of movies. You could say Pulp Fiction, but a lot of Tarantino movies where they go to these type of movie houses that are, and there was a name for them back in the 90s and the early 2000s, but they no longer exist anymore. And everything's taken over by the corporations and stuff. Welcome at pill.net. How you doing over there? What's going on YouTube? As everybody over there, hello, True Taryn, welcome in. I've noticed the California West Coast peeps are here early. I mean, it's 7:30, so you're what, 4:30 over there. You guys are in here. Thank you, Dorlo, for the can. Good evening, gentlemen and chatters. Yes, good evening. What's going on? Good evening, everybody out there. Alpha Omega Pill. Yeah, I told you I made that song. I spliced 2 songs together. I cut them and paste them, and I played around with it. Curious Cat, thank you for the cookie. Early Bird, yes. What you would say, thank you for 209 gold pills. Yeah, more people will be matriculating in. They'll find their way in. Just like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a gold pill. Leave comments or questions. Let me know. Help the channel out. Support the platform. I want to move forward right away because let me put this up there. I got to get this up. Yeah, I'm going to put the actual Cash App up there so everybody can see. All right. Let's get into some of this stuff that's taking place right now. We'll just hear from Miss Gabbard herself. I mean, she's fantastic. I mean, I can't say enough about her. I really hope. I mean, listen, if it really is that she is leaving because of her husband, let's just say it is, and I believe her. Okay, I hope her husband gets better. I hope that she has an opportunity to come back at another time, another date, maybe to take a bite at the apple again, maybe for the presidency or something else. I don't know. Who the hell knows? But she's great. She's gotten a lot of flack. And when you get a lot of flack, you're over the target, and she's hitting out home runs. And, man, she just basically spent her wad. She shot this out right now. She hit a home run with all this stuff, and everybody knew what was going on. I mean, you have to consider after this, and I'm just going to play this, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Tonight's a call-in, so I dropped the actual StreamYard link if you want to call in. We usually have some good call-ins lately. But let's play this. Let's listen to Ms. Gabbard, what she has to say.
U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens and remained vulnerable to longstanding threats of Russian attack, seizure, or damage. Now, until now, evidence regarding the full existence and funding of these laboratories had been knowingly withheld from you, the American people. Many of these U.S. government-funded biolabs are currently or have previously engaged in research using hazardous and highly contagious pathogens, and in some cases included dangerous gain-of-function research, with very little visibility or oversight. Now, President Trump clearly understands the serious threat dangerous gain-of-function research poses to the American people. And this is why he took decisive action over a year ago. On May 25th, 2025, he signed an executive order to end federal funding of gain-of-function research around the world. Here at ODNI, I issued new guidance to the intelligence community directing increased collection on these laboratories and facilities overseas. And we're already seeing the results of this increased collection. We're learning new details, for example, on clinical trials that are underway at these facilities and that are raising significant ethical, financial, and security concerns regarding the supposed public health initiatives and U.S. national security. Now, despite the obvious potential for catastrophic global impact that research on dangerous pathogens in biolabs can have, politicians and so-called health professionals like Dr. Fauci, as well as entities within the Biden administration's national security team, lied repeatedly to the American people about the existence of U.S.-funded and supported biolabs. Not only did they lie, they threatened those who attempted to expose the truth. So this release today breaks new ground, as the information surrounding the existence, history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by very powerful people who falsely claimed that these biolabs didn't exist. Now, they accuse anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors to America. Now, ODNI will continue working closely with partners across the U.S. government to identify exactly where these labs are and what pathogens they contain to end dangerous gain-of-function research that threatens the health and well-being of the American people and people around the world.
Wow.
After months of searching through intelligence community.
I mean, that's just a massive amount of information. So obviously the Biden administration, going back to the early days of Obama administration, let's get caught up with that. You got to think about that. Even in 2014 to 2015 of March, And then we discussed that when Russia invaded Crimea, there was a reason, there was a rationale. You know, when I used to go on Thomas's show on True Reporting, we talked about the biolabs all the time. He did shows left and right, and we were researching and talking about how like unbelievable, how crazy it is. We're talking about this biolab, that biolab, and you know, there's an area called China, CHYNA, in Ukraine, and all these other areas where biolabs are located. The idea that we know what they are or have any understanding about it really goes back to, I guess, the beginning of this war. Again, 2014-15, but the war didn't officially start until 2022. But I wonder, I always surmise the idea that Russia invaded, okay, and annexed Crimea and that port, that area, that waterway for a very, let's just say, serious reason, not because of what was taking place inside Ukraine and how, you know, they had a color revolution in there and they staged assassination attempts and all this other stuff. I'm wondering how much information did Russia know? And we will never know. I mean, maybe one day we'll get to know that they knew that they were setting up and planning to disguise these biolabs in some way, as use them as biological weapons, chemical weapons to be used on Russian peoples and provinces within area. And I don't know how far that went back, how long that was going on. I wonder how deep we're going to see this with the new DNI director. Now, Pulte, I think, takes over the 19th, but the new DNI will be sworn in on Wednesday, maybe. So we don't know what's going to happen. I don't think that we have a complete picture understanding this. It's like this. Yes, it completely ties to the idea that about COVID, the tutorials, the lessons, the lectures, everything that was learned about it. Was this more about leaky and risky pathogen research that caused a global catastrophe? Yeah, I would say so. That's a problem, no doubt about it. I mean, Trump's May 2025 executive order banning federal funding for risky gain of function overseas and abroad without oversights. Now, that's the key. I think that's what she's intimating. I think what ODNI is saying right now, that you have no oversight or lack of thereof. So this is not secret. This is not only secret U.S. biolabs, bioweapon labs that are operating through our funding, but these are run by outside of America, but not by Americans, by Ukrainian-owned and operated public facilities. Like, for example, there's a couple of them right now. I'll just name them right now. You have the Kherson Diagnostic Lab, CRL, and Ukrainian Research Anti-Plague Institute. These are all operated by Ukrainian public facilities that are upgraded with U.S. aid for threat reduction and biosafety training. So the transparency that we're seeing that she's talking about is what? Stopping dangerous experiments with none or weak oversight. Yes, obviously, she's calling for audits and more declassification to shut down all these dangerous parts because of the war zone. Yes, because of the war zone that they're claiming that Russia is now infringed upon. This is what Gloria Newland talked about, and we're going to cover that in a second. And finding out the amounts of ethical, moral, and security concerns that are surrounding this whole issue. Let's continue on because there's so much more. Remember Jen Psaki? Well, Jen Psaki in 2022, and this is when a lot of us were calling this out right after COVID. We were talking about the biolabs. We're talking about the gain of function. We're talking about where all these things are coming out and stuff. And then Jen Psaki, the press secretary at the time for Biden, says this.
Which is the suggestion that the United States has a chemical and biological weapons program, or Ukraine does, that they're operating. Russia is the country that has a chemical and biological weapons program. So the objective was to make clear the inaccuracy of the information, the misinformation they're trying to put out, and make clear to the world that they not only have the capacity, they have a history of using chemical and biological weapons, and that in this moment, we should have our eyes open for that possibility.
Today, I'm releasing new evidence.
So everything that she said is completely an utter lie. All right. And you saw what Tulsi Gabbard said earlier. It's not about Russia. Russia invaded and took over and annexed Crimea because they were setting up biolabs very near the Russian border. And the Russians were concerned that they were going to release biological and chemical pathogens onto Russian people on the borders of those areas and in the provinces all along the Donbass and many other regions inside that are Russian-speaking areas. And they were concerned that this would escalate and millions of people would die. So what they did was invade, try to shut this down, capture some of these things, take them over, pull them back. And so here we are. So that's why you see what is taking place between the years 14, 15, and all the way through when President Trump became president in 16 and 17. And also you got to consider the second impeachment during his first term. Remember the nice, beautiful phone call? How much did that have to do with Gloria Nuland? How much did that have to do with Vindman testifying? Does that play into this at all? You have to consider a lot of the parameters that are around this, what President Trump is looking for. And again, this is much more than transparency. I mean, you have to ask yourself how many pathogens were released during the war, if any, at all, at the time the Ukraine war was going on in the beginning or initially. We don't know. We don't have any information about that. I mean, would they tell us? Probably not, especially if Ukraine was the one doing it. And we're funding Ukraine. Now the Europeans are doing it. So what else is going on in these labs? We don't know. The experimentations on what we think possibly that could be taking place, not just the biological, okay? Not just the subset of exploring what? Dealing with anthrax, Tularian plague, Ebola-like pathogens, Marburg, SARS, MERS. These are highly communicable, transmissible pathogens that are deadly. Yes, we understand that. But what else is it in some way that they're scared about that I think is an issue that we don't get to see this war? The idea that this war is happening, it's real, it's continuing on, but yet you don't get to see any of this for a reason. There's no camera crews in there, there's no CNN, there's nothing. So we're left to speculate quite a bit. But you have to think, with as many biolabs, and she suggested there's over 120, 30 countries, all right, and that we're funding them. Let me just say this, that the concept of experimentations on what we know of harvesting organs, child trafficking testing, meaning adrenochrome DNA, RNA testing, adrenochrome harvesting, MK Ultra super soldier programs. Are they all specifically involved in these? Are all these labs just doing it? Why do you need so many labs? Think about that. Why do you need so many labs in so many different countries to test these things? It doesn't make any sense, right? Why wouldn't you just have, because there are laws in the United States, you cannot have these biological testings. This goes back to the 70s, which we banned biological and chemical weapons. So we don't have them in the United States. We don't do them. We're not allowed to operate in this manner. We have to operate on foreign, let's just say, territories to, I guess, go through the research in all this. But, think about what happened with the Beagles and what they were doing with the Beagles. Disgusting what Fauci was doing. Don't think they're not doing this to women and children and any other human being, animals in general. Don't think this is just, we're actually what? We're really trying to find a cure, find a way to solve Ebola, find a way to solve. Do they have vaccines and all these things? These things are man-made to begin with. The idea that this whole concept of we're testing, we're trying to figure out the origin of these things. We made it. Why do you need so many? So stop with that idea. Let's continue on. I'll show you some what MJ Truth put out. More stuff with Tulsi Gabbard's going. We're just going to go through it right now. And I digress. I don't want to, keep talking about it. So Tulsi Gabbard's swan song. She exposed them all, declassified report maps on the extensive secret U.S. network behind the biolabs and dangerous gain of function of pathogen research. This document shows many U.S. government agencies, universities, and dangerous companies leaked to Ukrainian scientific institutions conducting dangerous research on the world's most dangerous pathogens. Wow. A table lists multiple research projects called TAPs on viruses such as highly pathogenic avian influenza, bird flu, African swine fever, and others. Many of these projects were completed or ongoing. Interesting. They're either completed or why do they continue ongoing? The U.S. funded Ukrainian scientists to study the genomes of highly dangerous viruses inside biocontainment labs that were also paid for by the U.S. government. U.S. government agency contractors. You got Black, VTech, major contractor, appears multiple times, CDC, USDA, and Metabiota. Where have we heard Metabiota? Isn't that the Hunter Biden lab that we heard about? And no longer it's called Hunter Biden Labs. It's Metabiota. So you have U.S. universities, research institutions, University of Florida, University of Tennessee, Kansas State, University of New Mexico, University of Alaska, Anchorage, JGI, Joint Genome Institute. Never heard of that. Other partners, Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research, Orion, SAT-OSA, and OIC. Ukrainian entities, various Ukrainian research institutes, veterinary labs, and universities. Note, the others are described as small samplings. Here it is. All these things right now, I'll blow it up a little bit more so you could see what we're understanding here. This is what you can see here. Newly declassified, America built and funded over 40 labs in Ukraine that stored dangerous Soviet-era pathogens. So we built these labs, okay? We stopped the research and development on American soil, but yet we moved it and we offshored it to Ukraine, all right, that are Soviet-era pathogens that we just retook up and decided to tool around with them. How interesting. And they blame that on Russia because now we have to say, well, we have to find a cure for these things. We have to find a remedy to fix these things. Well, anthrax, you could take ciprofloxacin. I mean, there's other antibiotics too that helps kill that, but there are other things that are much more serious in some way. But again, they use this whole thing. Well, this is the Russians. It's Soviet era stuff. It's not our fault. We have to set up shop to do that right on their border. Does anybody buy that? I don't buy that at all. All right, let's continue on. Here's another one from MJ Truth discussing this with Marco Rubio as a senator talking to Victoria Nuland during a Senate hearing in 18 or 19. This is when deep state collectively shit their pants and Rubio played dumb to get her on the record. Does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons? Victoria Nuland, Ukraine has biological research facilities, which is why we're quite concerned about Russian forces maybe seeking to gain control of it. Yeah, they were what? They were trying to shut it down. These weren't research facilities for experimental research to find some type of cure. They were there to be used as a weaponized agent, all right, as a program to kill as many people. I'm sure you know about Russian propaganda. Groups are putting out information. This is Marco Rubio. How are they uncovered by a plot by Ukrainians to use biological weapons in the country with NATO's coordinations? So Obama set up shop in coordination with NATO to set up these labs as close as we can to the border. That's why Crimea was annexed. That's why Crimea was invaded. That's the whole thing. That's the story you don't hear about. And we'll probably find out that soon. There's no reason to hold that back. But they were creating this, and we were trying in some way to goat Russia and trying to in some way unleash a deadly virus, blame it on the Russians, okay, and then declare a war with them. That was the whole point. That was the discussion with NATO, was get the United States in. And since we're not involved with this, and we're never going to be involved with this anymore, all the funding's cut off, or whether it depends on what Congress keeps sending over there to Ukraine and stuff. But eventually, this war is going to come to an end. And with the understanding of this being dropped, this is going to change a whole trajectory of now people saying, wait a minute, I don't want my money going here. I don't want my taxpayers going there. And what about DOD involved with the funding? Let's continue with this.
I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities.
See, no weapons,
which,
right?
In fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they...
So why would the Russians, and these are Soviet-era pathogens, apparently. So why would the Russians need to obtain control of pathogens they already have? Why control these, take them over, invade Crimea, and all this other stuff? Because it was weaponized. That's the bottom line. That's what Marco Rubio is alluding to. That's what she's not answering. She's obviously lying. All right. And it gets worse.
They can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Wow. Talk about hypocrisy there. I mean, she totally lied. And now you're hearing from Tulsi Gabbard, and she's exposing all this. Tulsi Gabbard is exposing all this, all right? And you're seeing it. And now that we understand why President Trump was impeached, part of this, we understand why the 51 intelligence intelligentsia apparatus decided to say, no, the Hunter Biden laptop, that's Russian disinfo, and use this. They were using this and playing this game up as a stalking horse in order to what? Make sure they could steal the election. That's all part of it. That's why the impeachment came with this perfect phone call between Zelensky and Trump. He wanted information what's going on there, and they impeached him over that. And that's why these impeachments are going to go away, because we're hearing Anna Paulina and a couple other Republicans are making sure that they can whitewash these impeachments come very soon as the truth comes out. Let's move on. Here's some documents that are I could put forth and stuff that Tulsi Gabbard has released, and I'll show you this, and we'll go through a couple other exercises of futility discussing this, because I'm pissed. You should be pissed. To understand is that this whole scam in Ukraine, all right, we were funding the biolabs, we're setting up weaponization programs to unleash onto innocents inside and onside the border of Ukraine, the Crimea area, and many other parts where we're going to use this and weaponize this, bring this in there in some way and kill as many Russians as possible, and then blame it on them as a failed experiment, all right, and then utilize that narrative, run with this through the media, and have NATO coordinate with the United States to set up more attacks. They wanted to kill as many people as possible, blame it on them, and that they would have no way of proving this otherwise. So what Russia did was come in, invade Crimea, take it over, annex it, and shut down all the facilities that were on that area, on that border. And it's smart. The question is, what did they ascertain? What was the information? Remember that time that Putin and Trump met with the soccer ball? What information was exchanged during that time regarding the idea about biolabs? Or did we already know about it? I mean, we don't know how pervasive and how expansive it was, but clearly we were on the right thing talking about it after 2020, talking about it regarding all the stuff about the war, the annexation, and everything was happening. So DNI Gabbard reveals evidence of the U.S. taxpayer-funded global biolab program. After months of searching through the intelligence holdings and files, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is revealing new evidence, long-standing, that the United States government, is funding more than 125 biolabs in over 30 countries. This is not biolabs. To simply what? To simply find ways to remedy these pathogens, to get them cold, maybe in some of this research. But most of this is to develop them as bioweapons and to utilize them onto the American public, onto any enemy they have. These biolabs include labs in Ukraine, which may be a risk of compromise to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Who's to say that a lot of this Ukraine war is not part and parcel of the discovery of all these biolabs? We're hearing right now, and let me just read you this number from what I've seen. Ukraine has between 40 and 46 biohells, as they call them, inside, with $200 million invested in from the United States Department of Defense since 2005, mainly funded and scaled by the Pentagon's Cooperative Threat Reduction Program. Wow. So we're funding it. So, for example, the intelligence community previously warned that a U.S.-funded lab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens and remained vulnerable to outstanding threats of Russia attack, seizure, or damage. The newly declassified evidence, which could be found here, I'm not going to go through it. Until now, the evidence regarding the full existence and funding of these laboratories have been known within and from the American people. The information surrounding the existence, the history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by powerful people, falsely claiming they do not exist, which they do, and accusing anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors. Yes, deplatformed, debanked, debunked. All these things were done between 18 and 20. And then when the war happened, when it officially kicked off in 2022, they were doing this more. They were continuing on with this level, okay, of blackballing, blacklisting, destroying anybody that got in their way to suggest that the United States was not funding these things. We didn't have any part of this. We don't fund biological and chemical warfare. Yes, we do. Even though we don't do it on our own homeland or territory, we're actually doing it on other homeland territories that are, that are not necessarily NATO controlled, because there are laws in place about that. But it seems to me that a lot of these areas, 40 to 46, but to suggest 120 labs across 30 countries, we don't even know where those countries are, who those, we heard Sudan is one of them, but we don't know. We don't know. And we still, again, are perplexed by the idea of thinking that we're just, ruminating on the idea that it's just about what? Anthrax and Mars and Marburg and SARS and Ebola and stuff like that. It is not. We're setting up what? Shop for different things in many different countries. And each country probably has a facet for what it's designed for and what it's necessary to do. My guess is that a lot of things that are happening in Ukraine are really about bioweapon technology, super soldier programs, MK Ultra, and harvesting. I believe the harvesting of either adrenochrome or organs, and I believe that that's part of it. So President Trump understands the serious threat danger of gain-of-function research poses to the American people, which is why he took a decisive action on the 25th of last year, signing an executive order 14292 and end the federal funding of gain-of-function. Despite the obvious potential catastrophic global impact, research on dangerous pathogens in biolabs can have politicians, so-called health officials like Fauci, and entities within the Biden administration, national security team lied to the American people about the existence of the U.S.-funded and supported biolabs. Yes. When is anybody going to be held accountable? I mean, I don't know. Are we going to see it? I mean, is it already been done? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I mean, it's a good question. I mean, it's what we ask every day. Where are more of these things? Has this already been done before we even got? I mean, the whole thing. Look at the Iran war. Understand the Iran war. It's already been done. Yes. Where is the? You said where's the bitch now? Trusty turn up. I don't know where Newland is. I have no idea. Our government does. Plus, maybe remembering about the Plum Island with the ticks. Yeah, that's a good one, Duback. I mean, no one's even discussed Plum Island, which is off, not too far away, the island off of New York that did testing, the Army research over there, yes, for ticks and many other things in the 1940s and stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. And, what is that island is? Wasn't that island also featured as in a Marvel movie doing research in there? About that. I think that there was a feature that was in San Francisco. I'm not really sure. But Plum Island, yeah, it's another one that no one discusses. Yeah, chemical warfare. No one's talking about these things. And there are many ways that you can biologically and chemically attack people. Yes, with ticks, with food, with lice, many things, many mosquitoes, with bees, you name it. So, I mean, it's not just one thing. I mean, there are many different research that is being funded to biologically attack their enemies. And they're creating these ways in so many different ways. Look what they've done to glyphosate. Look what they've done to bread. Look what they've done to wheat. Look what they've done to our agriculture. Look what they've done to our water. There are many instances, okay, that you could say that biological, germ warfare, chemical warfare is an ongoing, persistent thing that necessarily doesn't have to be an actual weapon that's going to be disguised and put into some rocket launcher and dismissed or dispersed into the atmosphere, even though they do that all the time with the chemtrails and many other things that they continue on. So yes, the idea that we have this all over the place is a lot bigger than, you can't, this has to be a little bit more expansive when you look at this. So the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, let me blow this up, Tulsi Gabbard, this is more, here she is, she says, is investigating the activities of more than 120 labs abroad that have been funded by U.S. budget. Now, do you think she knows which one they are? Do you think she has an idea of how many they are here, there, or is she still looking for some because they're so secret and classified? This is reported by the New York Post, to which Gabbard gave a comment. Gabbard said her team will identify where these labs are located and what pathogens they contain and what research is being conducted to stop the dangerous experiments. Yeah, I mean, you got to cut up the funding. I mean, these defense packages that President Trump wants and all these things, you got to consider you have black budget programs that are set in place. We send them $500 million, $1 billion. We send them all this money, $1 trillion or whatever. They splice off half this shit and it goes to all these, stuff that's off book. And a lot of the money finds its way into these research facilities and that are being run and run by proprietary corporations and companies. And then they use these things in big pharma and big tech to what? Mass produce the poison, the toxin, and put this in your vaccines, put this in your medicines, put this in anything they can, while they also simultaneously make a vaccine off of it or make a cure off it. What they do is they try in some way to find ways to hurt you and kill you, find ways to vaccinate you and heal you while they're making money on both sides. It's just a game. It's a rigged game. It's a disgusting game. That's why all these labs are all over the place. So when you think about the biolabs, it's not just biolabs that are funded by the Department of Defense. You have to ask how many big pharma, biotech, and what have you are involved with these companies through research because of the pathogens and what they're working on through NIH, what they're working on in other developments and many different things. It's not just one thing and one thing only we could focus on. Think bigger. I think Plum Island was a good example. Whoever said that, do back. I think that's really good. Thank you, Darlo, for the can. Can anyone explain why no one is ever held accountable? Yeah, I don't know. Goes back to Epstein. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, maybe they're already done. It's already done, and we're waiting to play catch up. And you know, the curtain goes up, the curtain drops. It's all done. I don't know. Darlo, give to the can. Good evening. Thank you, Curious Cat. Would USA, thank you for 209 gold pills. All right, let's continue on. Representatives from Gabbard's office said the foreign labs are located more than 30 countries. Some of them have previously received funding through the U.S. Department of Defense program designed to eliminate weapons of mass destruction after the Cold War. So the research is part of the Department of Defense Joint Threat Reduction Program, which is also designed to study pathogens, prevent future outbreaks, and strengthen U.S. biosecurity. Gabbard's office said more than 40 of these biolabs are located in Ukraine at a risk of compromise. Have they not been compromised already? We don't even know. We don't know what's going on out there. We don't know if you have a bunch of zombies walking out there, a bunch of super soldiers out there. Honestly, think about what Marvel is. Think about what Captain America is. That's biolab technology. That's super soldier engineered stuff. And what did you learn in The Winter Soldier? You heard about Operation Paperclip. You heard about MK Ultra. You heard about many things that were discussed. You heard about Hydra and how the split off of this, you cut off one head, another head pops up. I mean, a lot of these things for NPCs and normies to hear about, they were blown away and surprised. They were shocked. But a lot of this stuff that is being revealed slowly out there, is that what we're seeing over there? Could be. Don't put it past them to say that you don't have programs out there. This is a lot bigger than we're getting to. But ultimately, it connects to what? President Trump's second impeachment. It connects to the stolen election. It connects to all the people that lied. And the more and more you see it, the more and more people understand what the hell is going on. Here's one more thing, and then we'll leave this. And I thought this was really good as we move on to the next subject because I got a lot more to go. So I'll blow this up. Let's see if I can get this. Okay, so here it is, the Department of Defense Cooperative Threat Reduction Program. This is something I found. This is interesting. This is part of what Gabbard is talking about. Public health facilities and biological laboratories around the world maintain and study pathogens to be able to confirm outbreaks of disease and to improve early detection and diagnostic capabilities. These facilities use specific pathogens because they are endemic to their country or because they are at risk of spread from other countries. All member countries under the World Health Organization, there you go, International Health Regulations, IHR 2005, must have the capabilities to detect and respond to these threats. This is a basic capability for national security. So what we take from here is that a lot of these countries have to have this because they're part of the WHO or the IHR. We're no longer part of the WHO, so it doesn't matter. This doesn't affect us. But other countries that are on the directive of them must follow this protocol. So they must have and ascertain research laboratories for the undertaking of these pathogens one way or another. It's almost like stipulated. The United States, through BTRP, has invested approximately $200 million in this since 2005. 46 Ukrainian laboratories, health facilities, diagnostic sites. BTRP has improved Ukraine's biological safety. That's the biological threat reduction. By supporting safer and more effective disease detection, this assistance directly improved Ukraine's COVID-19 response. Oh, okay. So BTRP partners with World Health. There you go. World Organization of Animal Health. There you go. U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and other health institutions providing this assistance. So it's no wonder what happened with COVID. It's no wonder what it turned out that under the guidance and this jurisprudence, let's just say, edict that they put in there in some way, their principles and their guidelines basically outweigh and in some way, I'd say, bifurcate sovereign nationality of laws of what they're contextually allowed to do inside their own governments. So this was the problem we were facing here. That's why ivermectin was pushed back for so much and many other health remedies that you didn't need a vaccine. So the DoD CTR program began its biological work with Ukraine to reduce the risk posed by the former Soviet Union illegal biological weapons program, which left Soviet successor states with unsecured biological materials after the fall. DoD CTR program works with many partner countries to reduce the threat. So we came in there, scooped them all up, okay? And then we quietly held them until we were starting up threat assessments, all right, around 2005 as the fall of Russia continued on and as it was going on through the early 2000s and after 9/11, we started setting up shop in Ukraine. The DoD even worked closely with Russia and within Russian laboratories owned since 2014. How interesting. That was the time of what? The invasion of Crimea. So did we go in there, work closely with them, or did we steal that stuff from them, create up shop, set up shop along the border and start doing all these things? So we don't know. I don't think we have an understanding. That hasn't been told to us, but you have to consider that that was taking place. I know for some people this is not an important subject, but for me, I think for many of us who want to get to the bottom of COVID and get the bottom of understanding about what they had plans for us into the future, and now addressing this, putting people's eyes on this to see this is an important subject as we move on. One last thing. I think I got one more. This is what she said in 2022, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just say this, and as I leave this, Tulsi Gabbard clarifies Ukraine Biolab's remarks. Look at the date, March 15, 2022. That was the start. Actually, the war started in February, the Russia-Ukraine war. She says this, remarks at the widespread outage. Former Congressman Tulsi Gabbard had clarified back in 2022, a month after, maybe a couple weeks after the war started, has clarified her comments about the biolabs in Ukraine after she was accused of lending credibility to Russian propaganda. See, they undercut her. They attacked her. They smeared her. They besmirched her. She ended up went from Democrat to Republican. Oh, they did. They destroyed her. In a series of tweets on Monday, the 2020 Democrat presidential hopeful, remember, this is 2022, responded to fierce criticism that had received a video about the threat of Moscow targeting U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. Gabbard's video posted on March 13th and was accused of echoing false claims made by the Kremlin to justify its invasion of Ukraine, that the country is housing labs funded by U.S. military and that are developing chemical and biological weapons. Wow. We were saying this before she even got on the stage to start what? Pushing back after 2020. She came out right then and there on this date, March 15, 2022. She said, this is why they invaded. She tells you right there, this is why they invaded. Because we either stole the pathogens from these areas and facilities, and then we started to set up shop along the border, and Russia got concerned. And that we were funding that through U.S. military operations, DoD, and they were concerned that we were so close to this that they had to invade in 14 and 15 in order to shut this down. This is what you're not hearing. This is what you're not discussing. And I'm sure President Trump will be giving us that information very soon. So what's your thoughts out there? Let's hear your comments out there. Duback, I remember giving a shot of vaccine, but I believe syphilis. I believe in the New York and black men. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Tuskegee, let alone Fauci. You have Tuskegee Airmen. So there are many different scenarios, but many different places where these types of engineered vaccines and all these different types of realities of utilizing these bioengineered weapons are all over the place. They tested on us, tested on animals. They've done it many, many times over. So it's just she highlighted it back in 2022, even though many of us were calling that out right around COVID. And what was being discussed about China inside there and the biolab activities that were taking place, that we hear that Hunter Biden had one, which is Metabiota, and all these other things. And now it's coming to fruition. Now it's coming out. And I don't think they could do anything about it. All right, let's move on. Iran, say uncle or starve. I think the whole discussion about what's going on with the Iran war is done. There is a deal in place. And President Trump was trying to, in one way, distract you and divert you with all the bombing that was happening, because one element group inside, and there could be the IRGC, that didn't want to capitulate, did not want to give in, that had some control of this, was shooting missiles all over the place. And I think another deal was being fostered in some way, that was being created behind the scenes. And I think this was a deliberate distraction. So I think that there are a couple prevailing viewpoints about this, but we're not really sure until he tells us. So now as the bombing intensifies, this was yesterday, the regime's foundations are beginning to give way, not only under military pressure, but under financial siege, with key channels of regime finance cut off by operations of Secretary Bassett. Tehran is discovering what petro-authoritarian fears most likely look like, that the money stops before the missiles do. Yes, the military controls the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, the president will get this deal. And yes, investors will get a peace dividend. Yeah, I think this was already done. And I think that we were just witnessing the final stages. And while he wanted people to realize in some way not to worry about it, oil was dropping. They were bombing last night. There was a barrage of bombs left and right. You heard UAE offer them $3 billion to stop hitting their bases and oil fields out there. That's what they offered Iran. There was so much conjecture and propaganda out there. You couldn't take any information out there and piece it together to say we knew anything. And this was privately done behind the scenes. It's now we're just waiting for the final, let's just say, details to be in some way finished. So for years, the punting glass told us that none of this was possible. They said you can never dislodge Maduro without quagmire. They said you can never bring the Islamic Republic to a heel without grand invasion. And they said they can never assert control over the Hormuz, keep oil flowing, and still push Iran off the nuclear brink. This was really good. The only real known is that what will the pundits get next? Okay, I'm not going to play this anymore. I think a lot of people are starting to understand is that a deal is about to happen. I wouldn't worry about too much. You had JD Vance. I'm not going to read all of it because I got to speed this up. I got a lot more to cover on. Plus, it's a call-in show. We'll get to your comments and stuff. Here it is right now. JD Vance went off. He said, a lot of fake information about potential deals to reopen the strait and Iran's nuclear weapons program. First, Iranians are not receiving any cash. No funds are being released. I mean, why would anybody think that? Nothing is being done. Nothing is being facilitated or orchestrated out. All right. The deal is structured to ensure U.S. and its allies' concerns are prioritized, that the Islamic Republic Iran meets its obligations. I've noticed a couple of bizarre things that we're reporting and said Donald Trump is historic president this month, criticizing the deal based on unconfirmed reports. Yeah, the IRGs apparently believe anonymously source social media. So they're in charge of pushing the agitprop out there. Who is working for the IRGC, who's working with them to continue pushing this out there? Here comes Nick Swartup. I think this is a good one. Listen to what he has to say here.
Carry out the terms of the deal. The Strait of Hormuz will be open and Iran will not provide any funding for terrorist groups. But the regime is publicly insisting that nothing's been finalized, with some key issues still on the table.
So President Trump saying this on True Social a moment ago. Here we go now. Read it all to you. The terms that Iran leaked out to the fake news have nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. Very dishonorable people to deal with. With them, there is no such thing as dealing in good faith. Amazing. Also, their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships leaving the Hormuz Strait is totally unacceptable. They better get their act together and fast.
So there are two prevailing factions that are operating for power. And one already had gotten to that point where President Trump was making a deal with them. While the IRGC was a bunch of loose bandits being pissed off that a deal was going to be made and they might not be a part of it. That's possibly what's being brokered. The other thing is that they still had some weapons that they can shoot off and all this other things, but it really doesn't matter. It wasn't enough to deter anything. President Trump hit them a couple of more times and slapped them back and say, knock it off. And then while a deal was being brokered behind the scenes, everybody was lesser the wiser. And so here we are right now coming out with something that's going to take place. While the IRGC had their main operation tool apparatus using the fake media and putting out agitprop to convince you that nothing is done, no deal is happening, everything is a lie. And to convince you that President Trump is lying in the administration. You know, and the fact that people are buying it and believing into it in many different ways. I mean, it's just sad in some ways. And I said this deal was done a long time ago. All right. It's just that it had to be brought forth where they were going to discuss how they're going to dispose of this nuclear material. Are they going to destroy it and then turn it back over? Was that the plan? That's also being discussed here. Let's listen to this.
Laying down alongside of you with a bullet in their brain, and they run. I can't blame them. Who's going to blame them for that?
So can you get them weapons, Mr. President? Can you get them weapons? Provide air cover?
Well, we actually sent them weapons, and we were very disappointed by the Kurds, to be honest with you. The Kurds let us down. I disagreed with the decision. You know, I was saying, no, I don't believe they'll deliver. I think they kept.
The question is, who made the decision to send weapons to the Kurds, and the Kurds ended up basically saying, fuck you? Who did that? I mean, if he was against that decision, was he working with Israel or some other intermediary? Because if he's the president and he makes that decision on that, or was it outside that? Did someone else do this? Outside his knowledge or outside his purview? Don't know. It seems odd in some way, but he's like, I won't remember it. I won't forget it.
Them for themselves. I think it's a disgrace. But I'll remember that, Kurds. I'll remember that. But they have some guns, but, you know, they don't have the...
He's talking about the Iranian people when, you know, Mark Tel Aviv Levin is basically saying, yeah, let's give them weapons. Yeah, so more people can die. See, the idea is like we should just come in there and just drop as many weapons as they can so they can have a shooting war. Most of these people aren't trained. But yeah, let's just do that. Let's just, you know, the Kurds were supposed to help out. They didn't help out. I think there was a lot of things that were set up that didn't happen, that failed because of the fact is that you had Israel involved, and Israel wanted a greater outcome. They wanted more destruction. They wanted more death. I don't think they cared about arming the people, but if they did it, they wanted these people to be killed. They didn't care about them. They didn't care about any of them. And neither does this. We don't know what the other regime or the other faction of this does and care about their people. We don't know what's happening with them in general. I think, again, we just don't know what we don't know. But, you know, it's striking in some way that, you know, a lot of people are just basically, you know, chumming at the bit to attack President Trump, the administration in some way, because this didn't happen. You know, this whole information, whatever comes out of this, whether it's the nuclear material, whether it's about all this other stuff, what happens when we find out that they have information they're providing? Maybe this deal is not what we think it is. It's something a lot more. You know, this could be something totally separate. All right. And I think a lot of people are really not looking at it right now. Let's continue on with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck puts this out. I don't like everything he says, but when he's on, and I give him this. I think he makes a good point here. He says Trump dropped an absolute bombshell yesterday. The media focused on him saying, I love the inflation. But did you hear the Venezuela raid size news that he announced after that? The U.S. military is secretly talking millions of barrels out of the Strait of Hormuz. We were taking all this out. Who's to say when he mentioned Carg Island? I mean, who's to say we haven't taken it now? Is it not plausible or not feasible to suggest? Can we not theorize that's already been done? If he says, you know, we're going to do this, it's most likely it's done. And then he tells you after the fact, oh, we took Carg Island. There you go. Not a problem. A lot of these things were being done behind the scenes. Not even Iran knew this. Everyone thought the tankers were just sitting there. They weren't. That's why oil prices didn't reach deadly levels. That's why gas prices are dropping. This is one of the most impressive military operations I ever heard about. Let's listen to this.
Yesterday was not just a military operation. He revealed the United States has quietly been preventing the largest oil shock in modern history. I'm going to explain what happened here in a second, but remember, before the war, roughly 20 million barrels of oil per day were moving through the Strait of Hormuz. That narrow stretch of water is one of the most important choke points on Earth, and 1/5 of the world's petroleum passes through it. Easiest way to understand the Strait of Hormuz is this. Imagine the world's energy supply is blood flowing through arteries. The Strait of Hormuz is the aorta, okay? You can survive a cut on your arm, but you cannot survive a severed aorta. When Iran began attacking shipping and laying mines, the fear was...
That was interesting. Basically, what we're understanding is that the money spigot's done. You know, the petrodollar has been what? Has been broken. I mean, we've broken them. And so they're no longer making money, making profits, and they can no longer in some way keep up with the distribution, the production, the distribution of oil sales. And the fact that we went in there and took this, unbeknownst to them, is even more shocking. But I say this, and I will say this even further, that I believe a lot of this stuff was already done before the bombing started. I believe so. And I think we're just catching up to see how fast forward we could play this movie out. Yeah, I think so. And, you know, that's why I said, don't worry about it. Here it is on CBS News that puts this out regarding the nuclear material. CBS put this out today. So I want to put this out there. It says the U.S. is making plans to secure Iran's nuclear materials if a deal is reached, sources say. Amid volatile diplomacy, tit for tat, between the United States and Iran, American military planners have discussed contingencies that would involve U.S. forces helping secure Iran's nuclear materials if a deal is reached. The discussions, which remain preliminary, are contingent on range of battlefield and political developments, center on how the Pentagon could support the Department of Energy in seizing Tehran's highly enriched uranium. Wow. I ask anybody out there in the chat, you guys are all quiet tonight. Like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a comment, questions, concern. It is the call-in show. I will drop the actual StreamYard chat again. So, you know, let me ask you something. Do you think in some way this has already been done? That we took Carg Island, unbeknownst to them, unbeknownst to anybody, unbeknownst to us? They're not telling us. They took the oil in the middle of the night. That's going on. And President Trump, that's why oil prices have dropped. That's an interesting revelation. Under one scenario reviewed by the defense officials, U.S. troops would be deployed to several countries across the Middle East to support a rapid response operation. Wow. Specialized teams from the Department of Energy working alongside American military personnel and others in the U.S. government agencies could then enter Iran to locate and secure and remove the stockpiles of enriched uranium, officials say. So do you want them to do it, or are we going to do it? I mean, that's the other question. Is that a tricky question? I don't know what the procedures are. I mean, I don't know how they go through it. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how they go through that process of seizing it, obtain that. How did they take whatever they got and enrich more? Who gave them that type of Promethean fire? Consider that. Consider that out there. Let me drop someone asked for the link, and I'll drop it again. So it is a call-in show again. You guys are all quiet tonight. Wow. Good quiet Friday. You guys drunk already? I'm just joking. All right. Yeah, Alita, anything's possible. Yep. It's good to see everybody over there. Yeah, I know. Let's continue on. All right. I think we're done with that. I know we're going to get into other news because I really want to get into the prophetic lens on Disclosure Day. It's going to be an interesting subject to talk about, and I was saving that for last. It's important. Let's move on from this because I think a lot of the other stuff. Well, here it is. Mediaite puts this out. They come out. Here's the foreign minister saying this deal is already done. So if he's saying it, Sayed Arghayachi announces this, whatever. Who cares? I mean, it's done. What do you care? And the only thing you care about, the only thing I care about, that oil and gas prices drop, inflation drops. That's what we care about. Is there some type of deal? Yeah, I'll leave it up to the experts. Are we going to have hiccups with them? Are we going to get the nuclear material back? Yeah, that's great. That's fine. Are we going to work out? And we're going to how is the money going to be dispersed? How are we going to work on that? What is the fallout from all that? That's what I care about. Everything else in between, really, it's not our concern. It shouldn't be your concern. Okay? The question is this squashed? Are we going to have better brokers to work with? Are they going to want to be part of this greater Middle East project that President Trump's trying to build in some way? Are they going to be better partners? What is going to take place after? Are they not going to shoot their neighbors? I mean, is Israel going to be able to get along with them because of Hezbollah and Lebanon? Are they going to shut that fighting off? I don't know. These are all the questions that, we should be asking. But for us, how we feeling and stuff, all we want is what? To make sure no service members are dead. No one's going to get killed anymore about this. That we can make something that's what? Feasible for us, that we can live with, that they can live with, and that they can't pop off at the mouth anymore. I think that's the bottom line. Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding has never been closer, wrote Aragachi. Pending its finalization, the media should refrain from entering speculation about its content. So apparently there's obviously a lot of pundits, a lot of spin doctors, talking heads, all these people that are involved with basically undercutting, destabilizing, and making war much more, let's just say, apparent and peace less readily available. And they're trying to do that and undercut it. You have a military-industrial complex. You have Israel. You have many war hawks inside the government, some in the administration that, they don't want to end this. They want to obliterate them. They want blood and treasure and thirst. They want to taste it all. They want to swim in blood. That's not what we want. That's not what Iran wants. How can you be on one hander criticizing Israel for what they were doing with the Palestinians, but yet at the other end, let's just nuke them. Let's just kill as many people as possible. No, that's not what we want. That's not what we're looking for. All right. So whatever is happening, there are many different news outlets that are basically bought off and paid for by the Bank of London. And, you have, The Economist, that's a Rothschild. You have the BBC. You have all these different media outlets that are controlled by different organizations and stuff that have money behind it, are putting out agitprop all over the place to, again, undercut this administration, undercut the deal process in so many ways, because whoever this administration is working with, they're trying to find a solution to fix what they want, to get exactly what they want and that they're comfortable with, and then everybody can move on. So in the line with this responsible and transparent approach, all details to be shared with the public in due course. So Sayed Abbas Aragachi is basically saying, it sounds Japanese, I'm pronouncing it Arachi, I'll probably put it that way, is basically saying that very soon we will see the details of this, and then from his standpoint, they'll put this out. Trump reposted Aragachi on Truth Social right about President's early warning that Iran needs to get their act together. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. Very dishonorable people to deal with. So one faction is doing one thing, another group is working another way. And that's why you have this bifurcation of media junkets and spinheads and propagandists and all bullshit artists lying and undercutting this and throwing more and more shit on, more fuel onto the fire. And that's why you're having a harder time. That's why they've been secretly trying to do this. That's why President Trump continuously pushes this narrative out there. And that's why the idea of rinse and repeat, bomb, rinse and repeat, bomb, the whole thing of, Groundhog's Day is what's being fostered out there. And it's like, it just seems like it's never going to end. But that's how he does these deals. That's how he makes sure that, there's so many eyes on this that are watching this in so many different ways that they're not able to get the prevailing, let's just say, talking points out there for media to honestly discuss and talk. It's all about endless wars. This is all about the election come November. This is all about gas prices. This is all about inflation. They're all basically taking a position that, look, we can use this to our advantage to undercut and separate and control MAGA and just beat it to its drumhead that it no longer compacts. That's what it's about. And that's why there's so many different mitigating factions in between. And it doesn't even matter at this point. Amid ongoing intense mediation efforts by Pakistan, we are fully aware of incessant misinformation campaign that is being waged by those who want to sabotage and subvert the deal, Sharif wrote. Setting aside the noise, we can confirm that a final agreed-upon text of the peace deal has been reached, and Pakistan is now working closely, which, that just blows my mind that Pakistan is involved with this, with both sides to finalize the next steps. Peace has never been this close as now. Wow. Okay. So, I'm not going to go into this Brian Kilmeade. That guy's an idiot. That's the 9/11 believer, no, never an inside job. So what's your thoughts out there? I dropped the StreamYard out there. You guys are all quiet tonight. I believe all above, so many of this connected. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's continue on. All right. Let me put some more stuff out there because, look, there's some other news that's happening, which was odd. This comes from Red Wave Press, which I thought was interesting. You had happening today, SpaceX goes public on NASDAQ. on the NASDAQ at $135 per share. It went up to $155, the largest IPO initial public offering in history. Thousands of lives are expected to change. A lot of people will probably be millionaires, close to that, with some 4,000 SpaceX employees. Many of them have been with the company all 24 years now, will become millionaires. Let's listen to this. This is insane.
Day for Wall Street as the company makes its stock market debut.
I mean, this is huge. This is generational wealth, Ainsley. Chan Lee Painter is here with the details. Chan.
Yeah, it is, guys. Good morning. So shares of SpaceX start trading today on the NASDAQ for the first time in what is expected to be the largest public offering of stock ever. The IPO is expected to be priced at $135 per share and aims to raise $75 billion, valuing the company at $1.77 trillion. So if all goes according to plan, CEO Elon Musk could become the world's first trillionaire.
Almost 10 years that people have been suggesting to me that I should take SpaceX public. We are going to put in orbit probably 100,000 satellites, probably over 100,000 satellites just for communication.
Wow.
We're embarking on a massive new growth phase, and we need capital for that.
And in addition,
That's
thousands
insane.
of lives are expected to be changed in a matter of hours, with some 4,000 SpaceX employees, many of whom have been with the company all 24 years, will now become millionaires.
Very life-changing. You know, Elon always said that your salary is one thing, but it's the equity that's going to be worth something. And we are all like, yeah, okay, someday. That day is here. It's great.
And now, as one of the most valuable companies on Earth, SpaceX has three main businesses: the reusable rocket business, Starlink, satellites, and AI. Musk will retain the majority of the voting power in the company, but SpaceX is allocating an unprecedented 30% of IPO shares for regular investors on platforms like Fidelity, Robinhood, E-Trade. So it's an opportunity to guys today. So will you take part?
I'm not quite yet. I'm going to wait till the price drops a little.
Well, that's what typically happens when there's, you want to wait till it tops out, give it the weekend, give it till by midweek, see if it drops, then you could pick it up when it's a lot cheaper. And then there you go. I mean, yes, you're right, Trustee Turner. Very cool what Elon did for his employees. Very smart. That's just, it's brilliant move and stuff. But that many satellites, what do you say, 20,000? How many satellites? 30,000? Some ridiculous amount of satellites that he's working with, obviously, with Space Force or whatever else to put out there. How much did Nancy make on that stock market? Yeah, I don't know, Casey Snowman. That's funny. We should find out. I will look for that. Darlo, give to the can 100,000 satellites. Oh, he said 100,000. Yet no space exploration has shown a single one in real-time video. Rockets to dodge them. Yep. I mean, obviously, yeah. All these satellites out there, but we don't see anything. Or at least we're not allowed to see anything. Not anything they want to show us. Not just yet. So that's just an amazing story. I don't want to get into it too much. Let me move on. I want to get into what's going to happen this weekend. So June 14th, President Trump's birthday is Sunday. You have the UFC Battle Royale that's going to take place this weekend. It's going to be a good weekend. Hot, warm, muggy. Pray for nothing to happen. You saw that someone was putting out the 8647 on the Monument lawn and stuff. Their investigations go on to look for this. I'm surprised they don't have cameras out there. But I guarantee you right now, whether it's satellites or cameras or drones, they're going to be finding these people or persons have done that. But I guarantee you, during this weekend, you're going to have a major cotillion of a mass National Guard, military, what have you, overseeing this event. So this should be extraordinary. I definitely will watch this to celebrate not only part that's going to kick off the 250 years, President Trump's birthday, but here we are. This is how much, again, we're going to cover how much negativity that our country has. And again, I don't know what the percentage is and if we're ever going to fix California, Oregon, Washington, many different countries, many different states that operate in this manner. North Carolina, Washington, Oregon, they're all boycotting the Great American State Fair, refusing to celebrate American 250. Epstein pal Reid Hoffman is reportedly bankrolling a wide pressure campaign on artists. Wow, what a shocker there. It's pretty disgusting. Epstein pal Reid Hoffman is bankrolling a lot of this stuff. It's gross. It's sick. That guy's walking around. It's embarrassing. But you want to attack President Trump about Epstein and all this other stuff. But a guy like that who actually went to Epstein Island and all these other things, it doesn't matter. here's something positive that I want to show you before we get to our final discussion tonight, which I really do want to have a serious matter. Maybe people will call in. I don't know. Grammy winner defends singing the national anthem at the White House UFC fight. F all the division. I don't know who this guy is, President Trump, and an upcoming UFC fight planned on the South Lawn at the White House. It's part of a large celebration, 250, which was supposed to include a series of concerts, though most of the artists have since dropped out amid the mounting political pressure. But when it comes to Grammy award-winning tap to perform the national anthem, and it's Zach Brown. Anybody know who this? I don't even know who this guy is. I guess I'm out of it. I have no idea. Man, I'm there for the troops. I'm there to honor America, Brown said. This is patriotism, not politics. Yeah, exactly. I mean, fuck all the division. I don't believe it. Even if you don't like President Trump, you should be honored to be there. You should be honored to welcome in and open up, to sing the national anthem, to perform concerts. You don't have to be political. You don't have to have that attitude. But your vitriol, your venom, your anger, your TDS, okay, basically undercuts, basically overtakes anything that you love about this country. And that's why they're going to be performing 250 concert negatively against this during this time. I don't know where it's going to be. I don't really care. I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to watch up a bunch of has-beens. Never was. It doesn't even matter. I don't want to see acts that I just don't care about. I don't listen to. I mean, honestly, and that basically are there to boycott President Trump, which basically is boycotting what? America First, is boycotting America in general and undercutting everything that has been what? Planned and tucked away for a long time that many people are celebrating. And again, this doesn't have to be political, but they are making it. I'm so excited for this weekend. It's History Man, getting to be an American history man, having the first sporting event that's on the lawn of the White House. Yeah, that's extraordinary. I mean, it's an honor. I would prefer live hangings or maybe like a duel. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't that be great? You have duels, you know? People get up there and put up there that they shoot each other. I'm just joking. I mean, I can think of a lot of things that are just sick and twisted, but whatever. Roughly 8,000 active service members will be attending the event on June 14th, according to Brown, who will also be performing with the Marine Band. And honored that Dana White's given me the opportunity to do this, Brown said, we're going to be playing the weigh-ins for the concert on Saturday and getting to do the anthem for this with the Marine Band. It's going to be sick. Wow. You know what? That's good. I'm glad that somebody's out there that is happy, you know, that's not pissed off, that's not angry about doing this. How about this? Did anybody see this? I found this a couple of days ago, but it just dropped today. I don't know if anybody watches X Games. When I was younger, I used to watch the X Games in my 20s. I mean, it was pretty big. I love BMX. I love all the biking, all the stuff. Pastrano, Travis Pastrano. I'm going to show you this. Anybody knows? He's going to jump the White House. Holy fuck. I mean, dude, how badass is that? Listen to this. Pastrano to jump at the White House. What's your opinion on Claw? Could it be a scaffold? Claw? What do you mean, Alita? Travis Pastrano, I don't know if anybody knows him, is set to ride at this weekend's UFC 250, which takes place this Sunday at the White House. Let me lower this because it's not. Okay. Yeah, so he's saying at the White House in D.C., the former motocross champion, decorated X Games athlete, and AMHA Hall of Famer will backflip his motorcycle on the south lawn of the president's residence. Wow. Pastrano received the invite through a phone call with UFC CEO Dana White, who is also an investor in Nitro Circus brand. We're backflipping the White House lawn, Pastrano said Sunday on the lawn of the freaking White House. Motorcycles, this is amazing. Yeah, this is insane. Yeah, probably you don't probably want to do that. The White House is going to be too tall anyway. Plus, you know, you don't want to crash in there. That would look bad. Probably on the residence, it'll be smaller. So Pastrano says he will green light, invite 5 other riders to attend the jump. His first call was none other than the GOAT, Ricky Carmichael, Brian Deegan, Jeremy Twitch Stenberg, and Keith Sayers. All been also added to the list. This morning, Jeremy McGrath was also added to the final spot. This is an absolute honor. I'm shocked, Carmichael said. Let's get to working on the bike, and we'll make it happen. Wow. How about that? We're going to see BMX motocross jumping over the White House residency out there. What's your thoughts out there? Oh, the hanging scaffold. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. It looks pretty interesting in some way with the EBS symbols, and I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I haven't really looked into it too much. I've been really focused on other things, but there is something odd about it. It's just the weird it's presented. It does look like a portal in some way. It's an odd thing. It's a very odd thing. I mean, it all looks great. We Are Rise, Jack Brown, Bad Country, one hit song is Chicken Fried. Okay. I got you. Yeah, I didn't know who he was, so I wasn't, like, again, I can't keep up with all these artists and stuff like that. I mean, last night I had insomnia. I was up watching Kelly's Heroes. So, I mean, like when I don't watch like a lot of stuff that's up to date with movies, and I kind of moved away of watching horror movies, especially the spiritual ones that are really demonic and stuff in some way. I find myself moving away from that for a lot of different reasons. And we're going to discuss some of it tonight. Like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a gold poll. You guys have been quiet. You want to call onto the show, you can do so. I dropped the StreamYard link. Like, share, and subscribe. Got the cash up here. You want to support the platform, that'd be great. Laura Mom, I believe in karma. What goes around comes around. In God's due time with family and friends. Gotta have patience, not care. Yeah. What if it starts spinning and DC gets sucked in? And something else comes out. I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I don't know what the scaffold is, the claw, what everybody's saying. I don't know. Maybe we'll see more of it. Maybe we'll see something from that. I don't know. Maybe there's a surprise to it. All I know is the EBS signal's out there. That's out there. It's kind of like odd. I actually have a picture that this is what I posted on my thing here, and I was putting in my background. I wanted to show it to you. Here, let me cut to this. Oh no. Here, I had this, and you could see it out here. Let me get out of that. You see it's something like that. I had that, EBS flags. Here's the cage match, and this thing that hangs over, as Alita's pointing out. It ruins the appearance of the White House, the hanging scaffold. I don't know what it's there for per se. I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it does look like a portal and say, no, Brett, one-way trip, laugh out loud. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'm like I said, I don't know. That's why I put this up there. I have another one that I created. I was like, but I didn't put the scaffold over it. This is something what's going to look like, but then you got the scaffold over it, and there's other things here. That's mostly what it's going to look like without the Rise banner there. All right, let's get back to what I was wanting to show you and stuff. But again, everything it's perfectly set. We'll find out. I mean, it's tomorrow, so I'll be watching it. I think you will be watching it as well. Let me continue on a couple other things here. So Axios puts this out. Again, I covered this the other night, and now they're bringing this forth because I can tell you right now, with this 250 approaching, this is the sentiment. This is what people are feeling, and this is how the media is spinning. America approaches 250 with its best days in doubt. Wow. While most Americans say the country's best days behind us as the U.S. approaches 250, you know what? Let me ask you a question. How is that even possible? Okay. I mean, what we went through with Biden for 4.5 years, I mean, honestly, what we went through with Kamala and all that stuff, when we went through all this stuff, January 6th, how is our best days behind us? I mean, the media, honestly, all they want to do is what? Feed into the negativity and bullshit. A new Pew Research Center analysis reveals national pessimism, fueled by political polarization and institutional distrust. But findings also show American spirit isn't completely broken. Nearly 7 in 10 U.S. adults said in January of 2026 they were dissatisfied with the way things were going in this country, compared with only 29% that were satisfied. 59% say the country's best years are behind it, while 40% say it's ahead. Only 50% said in January that year end ahead would be better than the year that just ended, the lowest share in Pew surveys dating back to 2020. 2/3 of Americans think the country will be more politically divided by 2050. Well, if you believe in the idea that, 20 to 25% of the population is already gone whitewashed, and we take that percentage, and we say how many of those people already lost with TDS, Blue City, state sanctuary cities, FETAs in some way, then yeah, I get that. I totally understand that. But I don't know if we're going to be completely divided. I'm worried about the race card that they're pushing, the race war. We have a prevailing problem that's not being addressed. We clearly have a problem in this country regarding black and white race, black and white intolerance, We also have with an institutional bias where there's not enough, let's just say, jurisprudence where people are actually being, let's just say, applied to the law equally for convictions, indictments, arrests. People are just walking through the turnstiles of the Justice Department, of the justice system, and getting away to do more stuff while we deal with all the criminal rot, the illegal alien scum. These are other things that are on my mind that I worry about, that I fixate all the time, because it's every day we see this, and it's an embarrassment. And unfortunately, what happened with Carmelo Anthony's family, with the Carmelo Anthony saga that's going on, and with the Metcalf family, what they're dealing with, and how we're actually basically polarized about this, where blacks want to leave. By all means, if you want to leave, be my guest. Take all the pro sports with you. I can care less. 80% are all black anyway. I can give two shits. Not baseball, but you can take it and go. You can go. You can decide to go dip out. Okay, we don't fucking care. We'll be fine just without you. We'll be fine. Okay, and anybody that wants to watch the sports over there, go get it. Go have fun over there. All right. The idea that's the mentality over there. That's how we saw. We're just going to leave. Go. No one's holding you back. No one's putting a gun to your head that you have to go. But if you choose to go, that's on your own volition. We accept those terms and we say, take care. Good riddance. Don't let the good Lord split you on your way out. Bye-bye. I mean, that's the attitude. If you feel like the system is broken, because the system is completely broken. It's broken because you've gotten away with so much bullshit since 1965, and it's gotten so worse with the Civil Rights Act and everything that was around that and circumventing that is that you've been accommodated, you've been coddled, you've been afforded all these luxuries, and you're allowed to get away with whatever you want. No one wants to do anything. Have you seen the New York Knicks game the other night? Just the city's on fire. All right, with virulent animals, a third world scum. I mean, that's New York City, and I can't wait for them to send a National Guard. Get in ice and stuff. Why would you want to live in that filth? They're going to burn down the city one way or another. Whether they win, lose, or draw, doesn't matter. Is that what you want? Man, I don't think twice about living in that fucking shithole. And I feel bad for people that do. That you have to live with that crap every day. But when you see how New York is and how it's run and the people that are inside it, it's a third world shithole that's running amok. And what do you expect when you got a Ugandan jihadist communist that's running the city? He's going to look the other way while this shit just goes batshit crazy. All right, let's continue on. A couple more things before I get to the final nut of the conversation. So let's see, Spencer Pratt put out a banger, and I think Spencer Pratt's got the goods. He's got the tapes. He's got the evidence. He's got it all, and we're going to see it. And I think there's a lot of ballots that haven't been counted that have come back and say we didn't process them properly. They're not being processed at all for some reason. How do you sign a ballot and they're like, oh, well, if you put a smiley sign, that's fine, and and your signature is smudged, but you actually have people that have signatures that had this stuff. And that's why UPS will play a role into this. That's why all these things will play a role in this. And I do believe phase 3 was also in the drops of the Q drops. So there's something here. I think that there's a team behind them looking into this. Again, I think he was set up as we see it as central casting. There's something more pervasive about his candidacy, about his foothold there, being a reality star. That's not a coincidence. Very oddly, how he distanced himself from MAGA and all that other stuff. And he just focused on common sense things. Very articulate and brilliant. And these videos that are generated out, whether he has nothing to do with them or not, they are fantastic.
The campaign portion of my mission to save Los Angeles is coming to a close, and I'm moving on to the next, more interesting phase. Listen, I've spent a lot of time slaying everybody. I've ridiculed everyone on the roster, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take the chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. You think you can get rid of me that easily? I know a lot of dim-witted jerks thought I was in this for a grift, that I was going to roll up and leave town if I didn't get into City Hall. It's just not fair. Hey, morons, I didn't get in this for political power. I got in this to expose this corrupt machine, and nothing has changed. You enjoy your worthless meetings in City Hall.
Nikki, you have all this information. You're running for mayor. Show what you're really about, or get the fuck out of the race.
I'm going to be lighting you up every single day, and now I don't have to worry about offending CNN viewers. I don't have a campaign laws hamstringing me now. It's war. Wow. It's 0 hour for Los Angeles. Angelinos are now stuck with two morons responsible for all their problems, and they have to choose between dumb and dumber. That's not a choice. That's the machine protecting the machine. And now every problem that plagues Los Angeles because of these two corrupt communists is going to accelerate, and the city will tumble headlong into the abyss. You have no idea how many major developers, hoteliers, business owners, entrepreneurs have been texting me saying they're packing up and leaving town. More of your favorite restaurants will be shuttering. That means less tax revenue. That means the city has to cut services, more potholes, less firefighters, less police patrols, more criminals, more drug addicts terrorizing your communities. And we haven't ended it. You have no idea how bad things are about to get for this city. Look at this place already. Weeds growing from every crack and crevice, graffiti over every square inch of public space, garbage, drugs, feces, burned up dogs, burned down towns, abandoned storefronts. This city is a mess, and you're about to reward the arsonist who torched the place with 4 more years of destruction?
I know he's very bitter.
My goal hasn't changed. I've been laser focused on stopping these commie animals, and I will stop them. If you think we uncovered a lot of fraud and evil in the campaign, just wait. We have some recordings of one of your exalted candidates doing and saying something that would make her resign in shame. I was saving it for the general election. Go ahead and pick your demon, certify your choice, and then you get to see it. So Karen, Nithya, ask yourself, is it possible that one of your employees may have a recording of you doing or saying something that would force you to resign in disgrace? Hope you sleep well at night over the next 5 months, because you know who hasn't slept well at all for the last 17 months? My mom. All my neighbors in the Palisades. All the moms who worry about their kids walking past drug addicts in front of their schools. All the business owners getting crushed in the LA economy, worried that they can't stay in business and feed their kids. Angelinos have been struggling for years now, all while corrupt politicians and fraudulent NGOs profit off the misery and fleece us for the tax dollars. Well, now we're flipping the script. I want all you awake at night sweating and worried about 5 a.m. when the FBI blazers bust in the door, breaking open your office, because I assure you, they're coming. You think your election was going to stop me? If you want to stop me,
you're going to have to fucking kill me!
Wow. That's fucking... Oh, man, that's hardcore. He just basically what? He's going to blowtorch the fucking place down. Gonna blowtorch it down. You think LA burned now? Wait, you haven't seen anything. Proverbially, you haven't seen anything. Wow, that's just fucking massive fire. I mean, he's just spitting fucking flames. That's hardcore, bro. That is so hardcore, and he's basically taking a blowtorch and man, this evidence. Now, apparently his office was intentionally set on fire just today that was discovered. And now there's an arson investigation, a criminal investigation into that. And so maybe we'll find out about that. So are they looking for his evidence? I guarantee it's not held at his office. You know, that's basically just, his office. So, I mean, was there all information about that? Well, is there video footage? Is there cameras on that? Darlo, thank you, DeCan. I'm stoked about the fight tomorrow night. I don't normally watch it. Prayers that there are no FFs. No, I agree. I don't normally watch it either, and I'm with you. I'll be down watching it. Lol Mom donated 100 gold pills for What USA. Well, thank you so much. Boneless Chicken gifted the shades. What's up? What USA donating 809 gold pills. Need more gold pill love. Support the man stream. Thank you so much. Darla gifted the can 100,000 satellites. Yeah, I mean, look, that whole thing with the satellite thing is still freaking me out. But this idea that he has the goods, and whatever this is going to really take a blowtorch to Karen Bass, or it's probably Karen Bass because she's in the lead campaign. One of them is going to eat shit. So, the question is he going to spoon feed her, or is it going to be a pie in the face? That's what we'll find out very soon. Senior Polo gifted the can. Spencer Pratt is brilliant. Expose them all. He's fucking hardcore, but make no mistake. Okay. This is the reality star. This is a guy who's very, honestly, when you're that good speaking in public, that wasn't AI generated. That seemed to me like as recorded, and they cut and added that video in. He, man, it was so fire. Look, it's promising. It is promising, and whatever they're going to uncover is going to set off a chain of events that's really going to change LA and maybe affect the governors. I don't think Becerra's going to win. If you think Becerra's going to win, I don't believe that at all. I mean, this guy with everything, with the recent developments of finding 146,000 children that ICE and DHS has found that the Biden administration lost in some way, and Becerra was in charge of this during the Biden administration. And you're going to tell me this guy is going to be elected? No way. No way in hell. The only way these people get elected, if they steal it. And so that's why I think in some way that we're going to really see this first thing. California has an opportunity. I'm very positive about it, that something is going to change. And it starts with Pratt, man. I mean, this guy is just basically going to upend the whole thing. His evaluation and deconstruction of what is taking place will basically probably get Hilton elected. I believe so. Whether or not he becomes mayor or not, and he blowtorches this thing and both candidates resign in disgrace, or they're under indictment for fraud and whatever else, utilizing their campaign finance, you name it. We don't know. We don't know where this is going to go, but the ultimate fallout is going to be grandiose. So, all right, let's get to the last subject of tonight's show. I think it's important. Tonight's show, prophetic lens on the disclosure day. I know you guys, some of you were waiting for this, that want to discuss this in some way. Let me be clear about this. As a Christian, former Catholic, I do believe that the disclosure day, from what I've been seeing, what I've been reading, what I've been hearing, I do know someone who did see it, and they said, it was almost comical to watch. It wasn't even close to E.T. It wasn't even close to this. He said that Close Encounters, which I love, it's one of my favorite movies. He goes, no way. It blows in comparison to that. But there are rhetoric. There are discussions there. There are platitudes. Is it a psyop? Is there something there that it was there to plant the seed in some way? Well, let's listen to this person, okay, who discusses this, and I'll give you a couple other things because we're going to get into it before we dip out. So Jonathan Pagu on X puts this out. Disclosure Day, the last boomer propaganda movie. Whatever. Doesn't matter. All right. That's not the point. The point is that the silliness of this movie, was it set up to purposely be put out during the time that President Trump is slowly, with the Transparency Act, disclosing drip drop information about UFOs in the sky. More drops came out. I got that too. We'll cover that. But I went to see Spielberg's Disclosure Day and found myself watching a strange late-stage piece of boomer propaganda about aliens, media, religion, and who we're supposed to trust. Here are my thoughts on symbolism in the film. All right, let's listen.
To see the new movie Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg on the world premiere by a Quebec media company called Le Verbe, a Catholic company. They invited me to be able to go and obviously to write a small article about it. And I decided to make a video about it as well. And so we're going to talk about this movie, which in some ways, my sense of it is that it is the last boomer propaganda movie. Obviously, there's going to be more, but...
Now, this is 22 minutes. We're not playing all of it. I'm not going to play someone else's thing. I just wanted you to hear some clips of what he has to say and how he views it.
It's a kind of final gesture, maybe of desperation of that generation, of the kind of post-World War II generation. And this is everything the movie is about, kind of crystallizes what we've called post-World War II symbolism in ways that are in places surprising, in places actually quite frightening, and in places also completely predictable to what you can expect.
I'll fast forward this a little bit. He makes some interesting points here.
ICE police shooting in cars, like there's all these allusions to kind of
listen to this
news media things. It's not the main thing about the story, but it's all there. And so when you see the name of the company Wardex, you think maybe this is an allusion to SpaceX. It's a private company that works with the government and has been the guardian of the secrets that, of course, the aliens exist. They're here. So a young man that works for them steals the information and now decides that he's going to disclose it and show it to the entire world. And so basically, the entire movie is him having this information and looking to disclose it. And it's a series of chases between the bad guys and the good guys. There's MacGuffins, basic MacGuffins. And, there's like 2 MacGuffins, actually. The basic MacGuffin is like a space alien technology thing that the man has that he kind of carries with him. And there's the second MacGuffin, which is the information of that the aliens are real. It's all these video files that he's going to show. And so right away in the very conceit of the movie, you have something very strange that happens, which reveals how much the movie is kind of like late boomer propaganda. And the movie is that the guy is looking for a way to disclose these images, and he ends up disclosing it. This is a slight, I guess, spoiler. He ends up disclosing it on the news, like on the evening news, the TV news. That's where he ends up disclosing it. And then it gets transmitted to all of the media channels, and they show the logos, like to CNN, to CBS, to Fox News. And this is how the entire world discovers about the aliens. And this is after 2.5 hours of film. And anyone who is under the age of 70 knows that this movie could have ended in 5 minutes just with a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection. And so it's very weird. The guy carries all this information the entire time and is like, is looking to disclose it when he just could have uploaded it, to 4chan or to YouTube or send it to WikiLeaks or whatever. There's all these ways in which he could have dealt with this information. And so already you have this weird propagandic aspect about the media, and there's also a very strange propagandic aspect about Hollywood. That's a little harder to describe. You might have to want to see the movie why this is. There's the whole kind of studio concept where they're reproducing this one of the characters' childhood house in order to provoke the memory, and so there's this weird kind of meta cinema commentary in the movie. It's not that important, but it definitely is also trying to get us to understand the importance of Hollywood in the question of the alien narrative and how it fits in all of this. So, that's the basic concept. The guy has this information, wants to put it out. And of course, this is just downstream from the other Spielberg movies that have dealt with the alien visitation, that is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and of course, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. The message in those early movies was religious through analogy, right? So you had all these religious images in those movies, the lights in the sky, the mountain, in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the character of E.T. the Extraterrestrial dying and resurrecting, this image when you see him in the back of the van and E.T. wearing the white clothes as if he is, an image of the Messiah. And so I remember a few Christians back in the day were kind of raising eyebrows about, okay, so what are these movies suggesting, that in some ways the aliens are a kind of replacement for religion? And it was done through this more kind of symbolic or analogical mode. But now in this movie, it is done very directly. That is, the question of, religion and extraterrestrial is just hit on the head in ways that is painful, that is so painful. And it feels to me like the desperate cry of a director who is at the end of his life and really wants to make sure now that you get the message. You get the message that the extraterrestrials, they are kind, they are benevolent. They come to teach us that empathy is the ruling principle of the entire universe. And so we really have to discover that from the strangers, from the aliens, right?
See, that's where the psyop leads, and I'm going to leave you with that because I got more to go. Senor Polo gifted the can, coming in late. Did you talk about the first African American trillionaire? Yes, I talked about Elon Musk. That's funny. I did talk about it briefly. I mean, it was interesting. Right now, I'm just covering the prophetic lens on Disclosure Day. So I want to take that. I got more Christian viewpoints about this, but there is a certain soft underbelly to this that I think that you could see in some way, whether Spielberg interjected his own faith and religion, being Jewish, and how that worked with Hollywood theatrics, undercut this in some way. Is it a plea to end religion? as a whole organized construct. To create a new AI derivative for God as a substitute is an opportunity for subversion of Christianity, to supplant, to supersede, to undermine, to usurp, to dispel, and replace it with a new age form, disguised or masked as Luciferianism, shrouded in mystery, sorcery, science, super science, in some way. From what I've been hearing, what I've been seeing, what I've been told, someone I know saw it, said that there are elements of that super science mystery in there. There's that sorcery type of like feeling. There is this, I don't know what to make of how they're describing about that. There is an undertone here in some way pushing some type of prophetic message. As he's suggesting, empathy is the one thing, but I don't believe empathy is in the Bible. And so I don't know what message they're trying to say. But he does call, I'm going to quote what Spielberg said, is God our God only on this planet? Or is God a God for every system where there's a civilization and intelligent life? The dislocation of society versus rather than declaring Christianity false. Well, you know what? Maybe we should start to question the Hollywood version that Spielberg is putting out. Is it more about what? Is he saying, look, is it the Christian faith? Is the Catholic Church the Vatican in charge of this mass cover-up? Because you heard Pope Francis, when he was alive, he was like, he's like, yeah, we're gonna bless the aliens, and they're one of us, and that's our new AI God, and all these other perspectives that were put in place. So I'm wondering how much of this is shaking faith, a marketing hype, and inviting fear of, and also inviting the concept of what we know as demons into our realm. So director Steven Spielberg is suggesting the forthcoming film has extraterrestrials could raise significant theological questions for Christians. Spielberg told CBS at Disclosure Day, which centers around fictional expose of government hiding extraterrestrial secrets, will examine the spiritual and social societal effects of uncovering alien life. When I look at the whole scenario about aliens in some way, I mean, what we're finding out that they're fourth dimensional and they're fifth dimensional, they're plasmoids in some way. They move in and out of our realms. Some see them, some don't. I don't know. That these plasma orbs that are all over the place that people are seeing. Is it really about a physical presence of an ET versus an aberration, a ghostly-like type of scenario? If this truth we just known overnight, if the government announced, yes, we've been keeping this from 47, that would mesh up a lot of people. It probably would. I mean, I think an older crowd, more rigid crowd, maybe a crowd that's very dogmatic, that can't process many different things. Look, we have a country of 20 to 25% of this population can't process things now in general. There are people that think they're fucking boys instead of girls and vice versa. And they want to play Let's Hide Mr. Potato. Look, the bottom line is simply, right now we're right for the peeling and the picking. And the idea that there are many things of shock truths that are revealing. I still don't know who killed JFK after that transparency. I still don't know what happened to MLK, and nor do I care. RFK Sr. I mean, I think we less even know about that. I think at this point, so far the transparency of the videos and stuff are fascinating. It's great. It's great to look at and stuff. It doesn't have any meaning or weight. They're not really described. I'll show you from the Independent that's bringing out, gives it a good point. But I think my discussion here, what I'm trying to say is that there's something here that they were trying to convince you with. And I think that there was some type of perception management, okay, where they were shaping the actions and the narratives of how you interpret this for the realization of the possibility of this coming forthwith. So if they were preparing, knowing full well that Trump's going to drop this in some way to the world, to the American people, what have you, in some way, as this transparency comes out, they wanted to get ahead of it. They wanted to undercut it. I believe they wanted to put something in that to twist the narrative, to usurp the actual discussion that is at hand. Not what Grush is talking about, not what the Congress talked about just the other day in some way. Is this a moment of revelation? Truth emergence? Does this movie, like many other Hollywood, introduce paradigm-shifting truths? According to many people that have seen it, or the person I talked to, they said that the movie is not about paradigm shifts. It's about retooling a certain narrative that's more esoteric. That's more trying to get you to understand that these people, these beings they're not violent. We should embrace them, accept them, even though they're much more powerful than us. They can communicate with us in ways. They're much more evolved than us, and we should treat them like a god. Yeah, that ain't going to go well. That ain't going to go well. Remember Columbus with the Indians. That ain't going to go well. Sorry, that's not going to be me. It's never going to be me. Yes, there is an MK Ultra feeling to this movie. Darla, gift of the can. Subliminal messages are behind the film. Absolutely. So was Steven Spielberg's opinions and speculations and optimism a push for subtle and naked advocacy for secular humanism? That is the point versus extreme dogma. Is that what he's trying to embrace? We already went through that transhumanism phase with the idea of the last decade pushing the homosexuality, LGBTQ, and all this other nonsensical ways away from this, and more people are now turning to the Bible, becoming more Christian. They're finding their faith again in some way, and maybe Hollywood's realizing it. Maybe the power brokers that be, they wanted some way to convince you that, hey, look, if we introduce the alien card in some way, real or not, I'm still open for interpretation. Okay, what Grush is saying in some way, there is a lot of interdimensional stuff, which really I'm captivated by it for a lot of different reasons. But I have a rational thought about how I feel. I mean, you have a positive and negative duality here. I mean, what is not being revealed is, I think, ultimately what the movie and what we're about to understand with the Transparency Act of all this stuff is really going to go. The EGO2 winning director noted that the film features a character who's a former Roman Catholic nun to explore the position of the church. So they've decided to introduce a Roman Catholic nun. Is God our God? He talks about that. They want to bring the Vatican in here. They want to bring the Jesuits in here in some way to dispel a narrative in some way that the church is open in this. Well, Pope Francis said he was open to a lot of this stuff. I'll show you this. This came from Interstellar app. He says this. Father Den Riel, and this is an interesting thing. Listen to what he says. Father Den Riel, there could be a curse over the Disclosure Day movement for all who watch it. It could have demons to provoke them. Steven Spielberg Disclosure Day movie could be consecrated to Satan. Demons could be attached to the movie, and those who watch it could have demonic forces of terror shake their faith. Okay, let's listen.
You know, the movie itself, I'm not saying this is what was done, but this could be done. The movie could be consecrated to Satan, and demons can be attached to the movie. This used to happen with heavy metal bands. Big rock bands would consecrate their albums to Satan, and even have black masses to attach demons to the people who would listen to the music. That I learned from Father John Carapi, who used to be multimillionaire in LA and was invited to some of these things. So he saw it firsthand witness. But they could do that with a movie, that demons would attach, demons of unbelief, demons of fear, demons of terror would attach to people and shake their faith, So that might be one reason to not go to the movie. I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm just saying that could be done. They could put a curse over the film that all who watch it would be have demons provoke them. It could happen. We don't know if it did, but it could. Okay, so when a new discovery appears to challenge the assumptions of a culture, it's possible that the worldview begins to crumble, but the Catholic should never be in danger of that, because Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. What's your thoughts about what you hear about that? That is just amazing when you hear that. I mean, that blew me. I mean, the idea of the awakening and transparency that we're going through, the long suppressed, let's just say, truth that is coming to light versus the chaotic destabilization and the fear that is impacted by it, or the collapse of trusted systems and once revelations exposed. I think what he's saying is that, there are many things, like look at The Exorcist and how that was received at that time. They had to dial it back on some of these things because they were just, people were throwing up, people were scared, running out of the movie theater. People couldn't handle that type of, let's just say, understanding. So I this movie in some way, even though it jumbles all around as I'm hearing and stuff, I'm not going to go see it in the movie theater. I do wonder if there was some type of negative sorcery or black magic that was surrounded by this in some way that is going to, let's just say, cast a spell on you, like he's suggesting in some way. I'm not implying that's the case or not, but I thought that was an interesting way of perceiving how the movie is, because if the movie we're supposed to understand it as it's described, as it's played out, it clearly is all over the place, as you heard earlier. Why not just upload the information up there that everybody can see? But you're running around, it's got to go on the news, and it's like, who trusts the news to begin with? I mean, if you had critical information, you're not going to upload it to the news. What's coming out in Congress, that the way it's done, the way it's always been done, is that's what we're seeing. You're forcing the revelation through transparency and clearance. That's what it is. Let's welcome in Owl Eyes. Hello, Owl Eyes. How you doing? Good evening.
Hey, Brett. How you doing?
Good. What's going on?
So, with all this demonic stuff you're talking about, and I'm not really sure I should be talking about this or not, but I'm gonna just tell you something that just happened to my daughter. So my daughter has a couple horses, and she boards her horses, and where she boards at is in an area where it's all horse farms and homeowners and all that kind of stuff. And then you have easements where you can get to what's called the foundation, where you can go riding. And so she went out there to ride with a couple of her friends, and they were going down the road to go to one of the easements to go ahead and go onto the foundation. And so when you're talking about demonic possession, so first they got met by some old woman, and this is like 7:30 in the morning. And this old woman comes out screaming at them, waving her arms, saying, "You can't be here. You can't ride back." No, she goes nuts on them, right? Gets the horses all riled up. They get past her, and then they're heading down this easement to go to the foundation to ride. And then they get confronted by some crazy old man, okay? Well, the old man ends up slapping one of the horses on the butt. The horse takes off. And then my daughter's off the horse, and he's like at my daughter, just like saying, "You can't be doing this, blah, blah, blah." And she's saying, "We are on the easement. We have a right to, go to the foundation, And he's arguing with her. And she said he was all up in her space. And he was butting her like with his chest. So anyways, they got out of there. The horse that took off had fallen and gotten injured. This is one of her horses. But it made its way back to where it was boarding at. Okay, so the horse is injured. My daughter and her friends are all upset. They're like, "What the hell just happened?" And so anyway, she has to have the vet come out, and the horse is lame, and they just got to watch it because there's a lot of swelling, and it's it's still doing some partial weight bearing, whatever. But the bottom line is this: this was a safe space that she thought she could go to, because this is like a high dollar area. It's all horse properties. People go out there. People who own out there, they have high dollar, horses and stuff. A lot of them compete, whatever. She thought this was her safe space. And all of a sudden, her and her friends got met with a bunch of freaking crazy people. Okay. So the only thing I'm trying to say is, when you're talking about possession and everything, when she told me this, I told her, I said, "Look," because she was upset. She couldn't believe it. And she could have dropped this guy because my daughter's got a black belt. She could have dropped him.
Did you call the police?
Yes, she called the police. So first the sheriffs comes out there and they say, well, I could take a report, but you really need to go down to the magistrate's office because you're going to have to swear to warrant anyways, and blah, blah, got a bunch of lip service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then they go down to the magistrate's office. The office wants to know, well, what's the guy's date of birth? And they said they couldn't drop the papers against him without knowing his date of birth. And she told, it's like, you got to be kidding me. So, so then she found out his date of birth. So they went back and they took out papers on the guy. I don't know if he's been arrested yet or not, but the point is.
Yeah, but the horse was injured.
The horse, well, they won't even do anything about the horse.
Well, how is that possible? You hurt an animal. Why don't you call You can't call animal rights? Isn't there like something wherever you're located, you call animal rights, you file an abuse that the horse got injured because of this guy's actions?
Brett, I don't know. I'm just telling you what she told me. They told her that they couldn't do anything, but she could press charges against him for assault because he was like chest butting her and stuff, right?
Yeah,
and I
told
her, I said, this is crazy. So, but the whole point of the situation is she got met by two old people. Okay, first one lady waving her hands and acting crazy, and then this guy, and she thought she was in a safe space. So she told me, she goes, Mom, this is one place I never thought I'd have to carry, And I said, well, I guarantee they've been jabbed, And I told her, I said, look, I said, the way you need to approach people anymore is when you come up on people, first of all, you got to expect the fact that maybe they've been jabbed and they can flip at any time. Because that you don't know, Brett, you can't tell anymore. You can't categorize people and put them in a certain category because this should not have even happened. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Listen, I had to take my dog out last night. I guess he had a poop explosion. I had to take him out at 12:30 at night. Then I woke up at 3, woke me up. I'm outside and I got my flashlight and I'm like, oh my, I just rushed out, he had to go. And, there's fucking people out there. And I'm like, it's 3:30 in the morning. And I'm like, just watching with my flashlight, I'm just keeping an eye out. And, of a certain persuasion. And I'm like, just watching and looking. And, and my one flashlight has I'm not going to say. But anyway, I was just it's like 3:30 in the morning. And I'm like watching. I'm like, hurry up for the dog. And I'm like, just watching, keeping it going because, there's a couple of them. And I'm like, yeah, if this gets nifty, something's going to happen. And they just kept going. They were drinking, walking down the street, 3:30 in the morning. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, seriously, because we have a Wawa down the corner. So this whole thing, it's open all night. So I guess you could buy alcohol all night or, beer or wine or whatever. And just, it's the Fast and Furious crowd that it was just last night. I'm like, it's a fucking Thursday night, Friday morning. And it's just like, what is this, party time? So it's like one thing I don't like. And then I was out there and I came back in. I'm thinking to myself, man, you never know when things can just pop off. You just don't know. And I worry about it all the time because I think about these things because we're in a situation now that anything goes. Anything goes. Anything can happen. Just like that poor kid Metcalf, And I do believe that, the part of the sentiment about what I was saying about this movie, I do believe it carries some type of, there is something attached to it. I do believe what he's saying, that there might be that they did this in some way to get people hyped up to go in there and something could happen and something could be transmuted in some way. People coming out, fearing demons, accepting demons, inviting demons in because aliens are perceived as demons. I mean, we talked about it, last week, why a certain Catholic archbishop that I guess he's on Instagram or something has followers that the Pope, Leo, has removed him from classifying aliens as demons because the Catholic Church has another way of viewing them. They want to view them and invite them in as a positive reality, not a negative duality. And I do believe that's part of what the emphasis of what the movie's promoting. I don't believe that there are just good aliens, okay, or whatever that is, okay, in some way. I mean, the idea that we have interdimensional beings that we cannot see, they're a plasmoid, non-biological, that I had to look up what that was the other day, and it's complete complex behaviors, plasmic intelligent hypothesis, self-illuminating plasma's fourth domain of life. theoretical, non-biological entities composed of compressed plasma. What the fuck is that? And so they can just go in and out through osmosis, and they're in and out all the way. And could they enter your body? Obviously. Can they overtake you in some way? I mean, we don't know anything about them, or at least they're not telling us. That is much more frightening to me than any of this other stuff, Bigfoot, all this other fucking shit. You know, when you want to talk about in the physical realm, I want something that's going in and out of another dimension. Yeah. Okay. Now we're on another layer.
They're saying too that the people who have been jabbed, that they're no longer considered human because they all that was patented.
Right.
And because these people don't even know it, but supposedly they're not even considered human anymore, and they're actually considered to be part of the United States government or whatever. And so anyway, so the whole thing I'm trying to say is weird stuff is happening. Then I heard stuff about there's like 3 categories or something. There's people with souls, people with part of a soul, and people who are soulless. I don't know if you've been hearing any of this stuff. I've been hearing a lot of stuff. But anyway, so just try to stay on topic. All I can say is something weird's getting ready to jump off. With Trump.
Well, what do you think about this weekend? You think something's going to happen? What's your feelings about what's going to take place on the White House lawn tomorrow and Sunday?
I think when I found out that a lot of the people going to that fight are military, and they're all different branches of the military, that perked up my ears, because I think there's more to it. Because I was thinking it was mostly going to be like the public and everything. But then when I heard all these military people are going to be there, I'm thinking, okay, there's more to it. I don't know if they're going to be having meetings, if they're prepping for something, if they're making plans.
Well, 8,000 people are going to be inside the complex. The rest of the people will be outside the gate, outside, obviously, D.C., and they'll have VIPs and other people that are in there. So, yes, there's a good majority of people that are in the military. You have the Army band, and I think you have the Air Force or the Marine band in there. One of the two that are going to be playing. You got other musical acts and some people in there. We're going to see some crazy X Games scenarios with Travis Pastrana and many other BMX guys and motocross, which is going to be fantastic. Turn into an X game. I mean, they're talking about they're going to have things coming in a couple of weeks, like the fair. They're going to have carnival rides, and I mean, honestly, I think the problem is we've become so anesthetized having so many negative things happen. We can't positively process something so great and grandiose and beautiful that could be just great and goes out without a hitch, and we should enjoy that. And I think sometimes when you get distractions like divertissements, as I'm suggesting with this movie, I believe it's a big distraction. It's a big divertisement, and I think there's something more untoward about this movie that is being put out. It's more relegated, not as a psyop, but something much more, I think, nefarious, and I think that's the problem that I see here. Just like the movie Nefarious, which is a great movie, and discussing about how a convicted child murderer, trafficker, killer and stuff is possessed by a demon. And that movie was great. I love that movie. Go back and watch it, because if you understand that, you could see, I could see some soft underpinnings to this movie. So you have a Tennessee exorcist says Spielberg alien film could be cursed. Another one, he comes out in some way saying demons can be attached to the movie. That's him. That's what he was talking about, Father Dan Rehel. And basically saying there's something very odd about this film, and why at this time this is being put out while the transparency is going forward with the soft disclosure. Okay. I mean, what was it that they had to somehow jump on this narrative to get a hold of this and whether overtake it, to control it, I don't know. But he didn't exactly say he anticipates this movie to be an exposure of a government alien cover-up, would shake the faith of Christians, though such how a viral X post, some outlets framed the recent comments about the theological, ontological questions of the film raises. I mean, the fact that this movie is getting more theological, ontological questions than The Exorcist at that time in 1973 blows my mind. It blows my mind. But that's neither here nor now, because that's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But when I see this, and that's why I think in some way there's many people that feel like with the Catholic Church, many Catholic priests and Exodus priests Some were removed. They don't want to talk about this in a negative way to assign it as demonological because the Catholic Church is ready to embrace these brethren that are what? Are benefactors, are cohorts, are, in some way, what are they to us? All right. And I don't want people to come in and say, well, there are progenitors, and that's the bottom line. We should accept that. I'm not accepting that. I hope that that's not going to be pushed forth. Is that going to be a new dogma, a new doctrine? That's what people are concerned about, because you're saying what we believe for the last 2,000 years or what have you is all bullshit and false. And whose fault is that? Is it the Catholic Church? Well, the Catholic Church has a lot more explaining to do. The Book of Enoch, many different missing chapters in the actual Book of Revelations. My biggest problem that the Catholic Church faces, it's not because of what this movie's put out, is the fact is, how are they going to coincide with whatever President Trump is about to disclose? And will they also be on the same coattails writing this out, or will be another divergence as we see going forward? Your thoughts?
Well, years ago when I was pregnant, I went and seen the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
And when my grandmother found out, she said, she was horrified. Yeah. She said, you should not see movies like that. She says, that can mark the baby. And I said, what do you mean? And, I didn't understand, but I do think there's something with these horror movies that it does open up portals or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think some people, the elderly people, because, they were a lot more religious back then, I think they maybe knew a heck of a lot more than we know now, and so I do think there's something to it. But
I agree. I'm starting to let's just say, get to that level. I'm a big horror buff, but I've slowly walked away of all the theological, ontological, spiritual movies that are demon possession in a lot of ways, especially the ones today. They're very dark, very sinister. I can't wrap my head around them. And I feel like in some way when I watch these movies, I become uncomfortable, not scared, uncomfortable, because there's a part of me saying, man, this is so fucking true, so real. There's a level of it that I can accept, in the sense of not belief in the sense that I accept what you're putting out and I want to be part of the dark side or whatever it is. But I accept and I believe that our reality as we see it today is we haven't even scratched the surface of understanding who we are, what we are, where we're going. But I think things are about to blow right open very soon.
Yeah, I think within the next 6 months, we're going to be in a totally different place. But anyways, I don't want to keep you. I just wanted to.
Yeah, no problem, because our show is ending anyway. I just wanted to show that and stuff like that. Well, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. I just wanted to get to those prophetic thoughts about that, because many people I've been talking to have said, yeah, don't waste your time. Don't go see it. I said, I'm not going to. And I always believed that that this movie was put out there in some way to undercut President Trump's transparency about this, to in some way convince people something more let's just say less sinister about it. I mean, I more Richard Dolan things that, not all these things are as, like Dr. Greer's like, everything's great. They're all great people. We should all just wrap around and get around them. They're all good and stuff. No, I don't buy that at all. If we can't get along with ourselves and there are monsters roaming the countryside here, you're going to tell me in the vastness of the universe or interdimensionals that they're all one big happy family and they share some type of whatever? I mean, honestly, I don't know what the pretext is, whether it undercuts, replaces, or establishes a new religion, new a god. And that's another thing that I worry about left and right. When you look at the Star Trek Next Generation model, when I watched that series, and I used to watch that series lovingly, thinking about how they interject that, there are many elements of what they can't describe, what they don't know, but they do point to individual people on the show, characters, that have their faith in their God from where they came from. And they share that in the context of the show, except the android. He goes on a quest not just to find what his soul is and to find out who he is as a human, to where he's going in some way, and he puts his creator in the person who made him in some way into something a little bit more substantial. A very way of examining our own existence. And I think that was a great show for these types of ontological questions, but that's just me.
So here's another thing. So, back when we had the Summer of Love, back in 2020, and you've seen all these crazies out there, right? And you still see them now, but not as much.
Mhm.
You know, it's like I would tell my kids, where are these people coming from? And this is just something I thought of, which, you know, just a thought. It's like, where are these people coming from? And I'm wondering, are these kids coming out of the tunnels?
Mm.
Are these people or children that were kidnapped back when they were children or whatever that are being released and they're coming out of the tunnels now and they're being used now to totally cause havoc? Because I swear to God, they look like they are just like so demonically possessed. I don't know. But that was just a thought I had because I just don't know where these people came from. You know?
Yeah, I don't know what these people are. I don't know what's going on. It's scared. It's scary in some way. And I worry about the summer love. And now I look at what's happening. I mean, New York's going to win and they're going to burn down the city. I don't really care. I don't live there. But you know what? It's sad in some way. You just have apathetic people that just don't care. And they're just like, when are we ever going to coalesce? I don't know when we're going to coalesce. Are they driving this narrative with the aliens in some way to get us to coalesce under that one world government religion? I'm not sure. I don't know where we're going with the AI data centers. I don't know what Trump is doing about that. I don't know what Byron Donalds is. He's going to be our governor one way or another now because the GOP in Florida is cutting that out and saying, you know what? No, he's anybody over 10%. Don't bother debating. He's already won. I mean, it's embarrassing that we're just moving along and our voices are being, I think, right now, there are certain things that I'm concerned about that need to be addressed. They're not being addressed. We're focused on all these, wonderful things of the 250. That's great. I'm all for it. I'm not going to be, a Debbie Downer about it, but, let's talk about these things. We need to get these things out there. DeSantis came out swinging hard today. The Florida GOP controlling our debates, not good. And basically siding with Byron Donalds, he's going to win, and no matter what, no one has the points to catch up to him. I mean, the fact that we're not going to have debates as a gubernatorial thing, and then we bitch and moan about what we're seeing about Planter in Maine and all these other elections that are going on. It's almost embarrassing. But I got to dip out because that's the end of my show. I'm running late. But thanks for the call, and I appreciate it.
All right, Brett. Take care.
You too. All right. So I saw you, Thea. You just dropped in. What's up, One Thunder? Thank you for the can. Senior Polo, thank you for the can. Thanks for being the most truthful, having the most integrity of any streamer. I'm sure I'm not alone. Okay, but I appreciate that sentiment. Thank you, Thea, for the 600 gold pills. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I can't wrap my head around the movie. I can't wrap my head around this movie. I'm not going to see it. It's probably why I stay away from certain horror movies too that are that are problematic in general. I don't know if I can wrap my head anymore around certain things anymore. And I think we got to be careful. I think there's something to that we should be mindful of. And I don't know what the point was for him to put this out there at this time. I really don't. But obviously there was an objective, and that objective was to what? Seal his future in some way. I mean, the movies, even though Rotten Tomatoes says it's got good stuff, there's a lot of people saying it's trash, and I don't know. That's up to you guys to decide. That's just me discussing what I feel about how they're trying to push this in some way. Look, if you're not going to get to the truth of the matter of these discussions, I mean, if you didn't learn anything about certain transparencies we've had in the past, what means that any of this new disclosure is going to take place? I just released the pills. Hopefully you guys get them. I'll show you one thing here before we dip out. These are some of the videos from the orbs. I don't know if this is going to play, but this is one of the videos that came out. I have the Independent. I was going to go through it all, but look at this. In October 2024, this in the northeastern United States, an eyewitness observed a light source below the horizon, hovering above a pond. The luminous object resembled a plasma-like spear. Plasma-like spear. There you go. This video was captured by a private citizen on an iPhone and subsequently analyzed and authenticated by the U.S. government. Wow. It goes on for 4 minutes. Wow. These are the things that I question. What is this? How did this get into our system? Look at that. What is that? Is that part of the non-biological entities of these things they're talking about? I don't know. It frightens the hell out of me, though. The interdimensional things, I think it should frighten you. I think you should be concerned about that. That's what scares me the most. Not the telepathic Nordics or whatever these other things are, okay? When you have them on the White House lawn this weekend, then we'll have a discussion, okay? When you want to bring out reverse engineered craft, let's have a discussion. I'm all for it. But these interdimensional things that they're talking about, these frighten the shit out of me. That we have no control of them. They can come in and out in our world. That should frighten all of you. Pentagon's latest UFO file drop contains 5 separate accounts from law enforcement. Look at that. Look at that. They used to call these fast walkers. And this is under radar. Night vision. I don't know. I know they had more and stuff, but that's the end of the show tonight. I want to thank everybody out there for being here. That's our Friday night. Have a great weekend. Maybe we'll pop up tomorrow to see what's happening tomorrow on the White House lawn. I mean, everything's going to be great. Hopefully, we'll pray everything's good. That's our show. I want to thank, let's see, on the leaderboard, thank you, Wood USA, for 1,000 gold pills, Darlow for 1,000, Athea for 600. We'll catch you later. We'll catch you later. I'm not going to be here Sunday. I'll be out of town. But hopefully, maybe tomorrow I'll pop in and we'll talk a little about what's taking place. All right? Have a good night. Be well, be safe, be smart. Take care, everybody. Ciao.